I am not a fan of cheating, but sometimes cheating is the only way to win. And in 2005, I tried to cheat my way onto the TV game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I'll tell you how I did it today on Jack Ace. What up, donkeys? Jack Hayes here with jackace.com, where we talk about my 3 favorite topics: gambling, crypto, and STEM. Today I'm going to show you a bot that I wrote hoping to get me on the wildly popular game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Back in 2005, the runaway hit primetime game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was expanding into daytime television. The new version of the show would be hosted by Meredith Vieira instead of Regis Philbin and would air every weekday. Along with these changes came a twist to one of their Lifeline hints offered to contestants. The original show had an Ask the Audience Lifeline, where the contestant could ask the studio audience for help when they were stumped.
Audience, Carson needs your help. On your keypads, vote now. Okay, 66% say Serena Williams.
But with the new daytime version of the show, the audience was expanded to include AOL Instant Messenger users.
Percent for 49. Let's check with the AOL Instant Messenger crowd. 45% of them say 16, 23 for 36, 22 for 25, just 10% for 49.
And if you don't know what AOL Instant Messenger or AIM is, it's like the late 90s or early 2000s version of Discord or Slack. If you were friends with Millionaire Aimbot, you'd be polled every time a contestant used a lifeline to ask the audience for help. When your help was needed, you'd get an instant message from Millionaire Aimbot with the full question and a list of options for answering. You'd press the letter that corresponded to your decision and you'd submit it, and within a few seconds you get a response saying whether you were correct or not. Meanwhile, the results would be tallied and presented to the contestant in real time during the game. At the time, I had an AIM account for work, and I happily participated in the Ask the Audience questions, and I actually did pretty well. Also at the time, I had a smartphone called the T-Mobile Sidekick. It was one of the first internet-connected phones available, but more importantly, it had an AIM client. That meant I could respond to Millionaire Aimbot even when I wasn't sitting in front of my computer. This Ask the Audience feature rolled out with very little fanfare, but in my mind, I was very hopeful that they would turn it into a contest. And then a few weeks later, they sent out an instant message saying that they would be doing exactly that. After a few weeks, they'd announce the user with the highest number of correct responses, and that person would have a chance to be on the show. Having a smartphone that was connected 24/7 was a great start, but I wanted a way to automatically respond and have a good guess at the correct answer. So I spent about a day writing a bot that would do exactly this. I completed it, and it worked. This bot had a few moving parts, so I'm going to try to keep this explanation simple for the non-techies out there. At the time, I used an instant messaging client called Trillian on my home computer. Trillian is an IM client that connected to all the messaging systems at the time, including AIM, Yahoo Messenger, MSN Messenger, and even ICQ. Trillian logs all of your conversations to disk and conveniently stores them in XML format. And better yet, all conversations were segregated by the user you were communicating with, so I only had to track one file to see all conversations with Millionaire Aimbot. So I created a C# program that was always running and added a file watcher to check for any changes to that file. When the file changed, it kicked off a process to parse the XML and look for a new question. When it found something that looked like a question, it tried to find the best answer amongst the choices A, B, C, or D. And I'll go into the algorithm of finding the best answer in a couple of seconds. After finding the best answer, the C# program would kick off a script for another program called AutoIt. AutoIt is a Windows program that can send keystrokes to programs you have open. So AutoIt would just find the Millionaire Aimbot chat window, send the correct letter, and press the enter key. And the whole solution worked amazingly well. So I kind of glossed over how I picked the best answer, but I'll fill you in on the details now. In a nutshell, my algorithm did the following. It stripped the question of trivial and common filler words. It Googled the remaining relevant words with each of the possible answers separately, and then you just look for the query with the highest number of search results. And there were many tweaks I made to the bot over the next several days to help improve its accuracy. I learned that it was better to put the answers in quotes so they were taken as a complete search term instead of just adding them to the list of keywords. Another major improvement that I made was support for finding the odd man out when you were trying to find the response that didn't match the others in a list. And one example of this would be the question, which of these phrases does not appear in the title of one of the best-selling Harry Potter books? Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Chamber of Secrets, or Flight of the Dragon? For questions that use certain negative phrases, I used the answer with the smallest number of search results. I also added a delay of a few seconds so that I could beat my bot to the punch with my smartphone if I was confident of my own knowledge. And this was because if you answered multiple times for the same question, it would only accept your first response. And with all my fine-tuning, I was able to get my bot to respond correctly around 75% of the time. Combine that with the fact that this was always on, I was very confident that I was going to win this contest. Most human participants wouldn't be able to respond 24/7, and even if you sit in front of your computer all day, you still need to step away for meetings, bathroom breaks, and lunch. If you were away from your computer for 30% of the questions, my bot would already beat you, even if you answered 100% correctly. I don't recall the exact date the contest was supposed to end, but I do remember waiting all day hoping to receive my congratulatory instant message. And unfortunately, it never came. My first guess was that someone wrote a better bot. Either someone wrote a better bot or got their bot up and running before I did. So I TiVoed and I watched every episode of the show, hoping they would announce the winner, even if that winner wasn't me. And yes, I did say TiVo, but they never announced a winner. My guess is that they just canceled the contest without any official notice. So was this cheating? Yes, absolutely. But then again, not really. Technically, there were no terms and conditions for this contest. They never sent you any rules that you had to agree to, and I never saw anything that said you couldn't write a bot. I mean, it definitely felt like cheating, but I really don't think a human being had a chance of winning this contest. Like the Tour de France in the early 2000s, I don't think you could have gotten in the top 20 of this contest without some performance-enhancing supplements, so I don't feel too badly about it. When you open up a contest to the internet, you either end up with a bot winning or you end up crowdsourcing a boat with the name Bodie McBoatface. If you told me that I was the only person to write a bot in this contest, I might feel a little guilty if I were to make it onto the show. But ultimately, I thought of this as a contest of who could write the best bot. And the producers of the show probably figured out that bots were answering 100% of the time with extremely high accuracy, and that probably caused them to pull the plug. But it would have been pretty awesome if they just let the best bot writer win. Maybe they're just too worried about how socially awkward a bot writing developer would be on their show.
I kick in like a turbo booster.
Like everything I have on jackace.com, everything is open source and publicly available on GitHub. Amazingly, I was able to preserve this source code for over 17 years. I can't tell you if it still works, but the logic there is sound and you can port it to your favorite language if you wish. So I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, remember to like and subscribe. Always gamble responsibly, and peace out, donkeys.